We are currently under a tornado warning. Looks pretty bad out there. Today is January 11th and it is 70 degrees out here. It feels pretty awesome. If you're thinking about building a house, then you might find the information in this video helpful. No matter how good you plan out your house, you're gonna find things that you wish you would have done a different way. That is exactly how I feel about our HVAC system. I made a huge mistake in designing the location of the HVAC. It's causing us problems. We have a little two-story house and we have two HVAC units. One for the main floor and one for upstairs. Up here in my attic, I have the main floor unit and the unit for upstairs. I thought it would be a great idea to put both HVAC units up here in the attic. That would keep the clutter of the unit and all of the ductwork up here out of my way. Well, I was wrong. It was a terrible idea. This unit right here, the unit for the main floor, it should be in my basement. I should not have put it in the attic. The only good thing about it being up here, this big unit and all the ductwork is up here out of my way. My original thinking about keeping that unit up in the attic was to keep the clutter of the HVAC unit and all that ductwork out of my basement. I wanted to have the most space in the basement that I could. We've got plans for the basement. There's a lot of things that I want to do down here, and I did not want all that ductwork and HVAC unit down here in the way. Well, I should have put it down here in the way. So first of all, you might have noticed my house is spray foamed. The basement's spray foamed, all the walls, all the way up through the house, and even the attic and the roof. We are sealed up super tight in this house. There's a few problems that not having my HVAC unit in the basement is causing or creating or adding to, however you want to look at it. Most houses I've been in, the basement is the most comfortable room in the house. It's usually nice and warm in the wintertime, and it's nice and cool in the summertime. Well, my house is spray foamed and my basement is not comfortable. There's no HVAC unit down here, so my basement is actually very cold in the wintertime, and it's very hot and humid in the summertime. I should have put my HVAC unit for the main floor down here. As far as humidity goes, I definitely have a lot more humidity problems in this house than maybe some people do because of all the spray foam. I'll probably be talking about that in another video, but for the time being, to get rid of the humidity, I've got this little portable dehumidifier that pretty much runs non-stop. This thing, it works good, but it is not energy efficient. This thing probably adds anywhere from $30 to $50 a month to my power bill. $30 to $50 a month for this little thing. Now, I just bought the smallest, cheapest one I could, and it runs pretty much non-stop. Sometimes I have to dump it out twice a day, but at least it's getting rid of the humidity problems I was having down here in the basement. Back up in the attic. So why are basements normally the most comfortable room in the house if there is an HVAC down there? Even if it is not venting or blowing cool or hot air into the basement, an HVAC unit, in my experience, is always leaking air wherever it is. And my units are almost brand new. This house is only a year and a half old, They did a pretty good job installing it, but I don't care how good you install it, you're gonna have all these joints, and even the unit itself, there's gonna be air leaking out. Well, that's actually a good thing sometimes. I mean, down in the basement, I think that leakage would be enough to keep my basement warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Well, right now there's nothing down there. There's no ductwork, there's no portable air conditioner or heater, there's nothing. So it's really cold in the winter and really hot in the summer. My main floor unit should have been put in the basement. I would not have even put an air duct down there actually blowing into the basement. But I think just the air leakage alone from the different joints in the air duct and the unit itself, air blowing around it, through it, whatever, it's kind of leaking out into the space, that would be enough to keep my basement and most basements very comfortable. Now, on a side note, if you don't know, well, why would a basement be so comfortable? Well, normally you've got those thick concrete or block walls, which are amazing for insulation. On top of that, my basement is also spray foamed, so doesn't even need a whole lot of air blowing around to keep it cool or hot. Just the fact of the unit being in my basement, even though all the air ducts would be blowing upstairs to the main floor, just that little bit of air leakage, it would keep it really comfortable down there. Another thing about having the HVAC unit in the basement, I believe that I could tie a bigger and more efficient dehumidifier into the main system. And that would help dehumidify the basement and the entire first floor. Another problem with having the HVAC unit for this main floor up in the attic instead of down in the basement, this floor is always cold in the wintertime. That's because there's no heat down there in the basement. I get out of bed sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, and the floor is freezing. Another problem that causes, I believe it actually makes my unit for the main floor run a lot more than it needs to. Because you've got all that cold air in the basement, it's bringing this room temperature down. But if I had that unit in the basement, that air leakage would keep the basement warm or cool, depending on what season we're in. And then it would also, the air ducts blowing into this main floor, it would keep this floor very comfortable. Now, I've said it before, my house is spray foam, so that does help a lot. It helps retain the heat in the winter. It helps retain the cold air conditioning in the summer. But I've got an entire floor down there in the basement that is either too hot or too cold. It's causing problems. So my options to repair this problem, one, I could run some ductwork all the way from the attic down into the basement and try to heat and cool the basement that way. But well, my house is pretty small, and then I'm gonna have to build some kind of a chase or something. You know, I'm gonna have to take some space out of a closet or something to run that ductwork. I don't want to do that. And then technically the unit is designed for this main floor. It's not designed for this floor plus the space in the basement, so that's not going to work. I've got a couple of options. I think at some point I want to put a mini split system in the basement, but that's probably, I don't know, $500 or $1,000 that I don't have right now. Basically that means it'll be its own HVAC unit in the basement. I could always go with a window unit probably, but I don't want to do that. I just built a really nice house. It's small, but it's a really nice house. I don't want a window unit, especially, I don't know if you've seen my other videos, I've got a swimming pool out back we just built. I don't want to be listening to this window unit running, or I'm out there having some friends over and you got this ugly window unit. I don't want to do that. So at some point, I'm going to have to put an HVAC unit in the basement. Now maybe you're thinking, oh great, well now you've got to have 3 units. That's going to really jack up the heating and air costs. You know, your electricity is going to be getting really expensive. But honestly, I don't think it's going to be so bad because my house is spray foamed, and I think if I had a unit in the basement, and let's say it's wintertime, that unit will run, keep the basement warm. Well, then this floor is not going to constantly be getting cold, right? Because the basement is going to be warm. So this unit on the main floor will not be running as much as it is now. Okay. You know, right now this main floor unit, it runs a lot. It has to compensate for the lack of heating and air in the basement. You know, that hot, humid air rising in the summer and just that freezing temperature down there. The floor is freezing. I think it just brings this room temperature down. You know, the initial cost is going to be what's the bad thing, but I really don't think the monthly cost is going to go up too much. And honestly, if I could get up in the wintertime and my floor is warm, and then every time I walk down to the basement, maybe to get something out of the freezer or work on a project, and it was comfortable and either cool or warm, depending on the season, it would be worth the extra money on the electric bill. Up here on the second floor, this HVAC unit barely ever turns on. In the wintertime, the heat from downstairs, it's rising up here, but also it's got that spray foam in the attic, and I've got that conditioned space of the main floor. You know, this second floor is really the most comfortable place in the house. Normally, most houses I've been in, your basement is the most comfortable. But this house, it's probably the second floor. You got that conditioned space of the main floor, you got the spray foam in the attic and the walls. This unit on the second floor, it rarely runs. It probably runs a little bit more in the summertime. That's kind of my thinking by putting a unit in the basement. That's going to help even out the temperature on the main floor to where that unit's not going to have to run so much. Once the basement stays at a comfortable temperature, the main floor will not have to run so much. So if you're designing a house, if you're building a house and you're thinking about where am I going to put my HVAC units, make sure that at least one of them is in the basement. Don't worry about losing that space. You need that leakage or that bleed off. You need that air flowing around down there so it can help condition that space. Even if there's not a vent or a return blowing and sucking the air down there, you need a unit down in the basement. I really wish I would have put mine down there for the main floor. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you found the information helpful. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.